Hello. It's been kindly suggested that I might say a few words about the first volume of my collected works. So I'll say something about the contents of the book and a little bit about the notions that are central to the book. Systemic Functional Linguistics Part 1. It's largely concerned with theory, description and analysis coming in to illustrate points in theory. The front cover is beautifully designed, and it includes a painting by Matthiessen, my father, and each volume in the series of 8 volumes will have a different painting on the cover. What is the table of contents? What's included in the book? Well, there is a preamble I wrote for the book to contextualize it and the series, and there's a wonderful foreword by my old friend and colleague Erich Steiner, and that's a foreword that covers the whole series. And an editorial introduction by the great team of friends, scholars, sparkling scholars, who are behind this. Kazuhiro Teruya, who took the initiative at Michael Halliday's suggestion or urging, Dai Slade and Wu Tsandong. So as soon as I open the book, I feel a sense of friendship and also a sense of gratitude. Now the first chapter, that's an overview of developments in lexicogrammar, very much a description of lexicogrammar as well as a theory of lexicogrammar, focusing on what we might call the IFG tradition, Halliday's Introduction to Functional Grammar. That was written a bit over 10 years ago, so clearly there has been much more work since then, including the 4th edition of Halliday's Introduction to Functional Grammar, Halliday and Matthiessen 2014. Then the second chapter, in a sense, takes a step back. It's concerned with the overall organization of language according to systemic functional theory. And here I've used the metaphor of architecture, which I'll say something about later on. But what it means is looking at language systematically in terms of the organization, the semiotic dimensions that make up the overall multidimensional organization of language, interpreted in relational terms. Both these chapters were included in 2 volumes, in the second of 2 volumes that Rukia Hassan, Jonathan Webster and I edited, called Continuing Discourse on Language. The third chapter I wrote as an invitation to another volume, and I was asked to look ahead. This is a volume edited by Michael Halliday and Jonathan Webster, a companion to systemic functional linguistics. And they asked me to write about ideas and new directions. So I thought hard. I thought, how do I organize this? I tried. You'll see if I succeeded. There will be a new edition of this companion coming out in the next couple of years. Then the 4th chapter is called Systemic Functional Linguistics Developing. And that was written in response to a request for something to be included in the annual review of Systemic Functional Linguistics published in China, something suggested by Michael Halliday. And that's then also on this theme of looking back and forward in time, so sort of shunting in time to explore the state of the art or the state of affairs at different points in the development of systemic functional linguistics. And it's focusing on the notion of development. And I think one of the important points to make is that it's been, in a sense, evolutionary all along. In the particular interpretation of evolution, there's been a fairly natural process, and that has expanded the territory with which SFL engages. So in other words, it's not been like the Detroit model of new cars, built-in obsolescence. There's always been an attempt to lay a foundation, expand it, and build on it. So in this respect, I think SFL is more like a number of activities in sciences concerned with the material world, physical, biological sciences. It isn't that old ideas do not have to be revised, they do of course, but the major motif in development is that of expansion of knowledge. Then the next chapter, chapter 5, was written for another companion, and this is the Bloomsbury companion, Michael Halliday, and the title of the chapter is very simple, Halliday on Language. Here I try to distill what I think are key motifs or key principles or key ideas in Michael's approach to language. I sent it to him when I've drafted it to see if he thought I'd gone too wrong, and not at all. I also asked him, do you think the introduction is too personal? And he said, no, not at all. It shows the engagement of a thinking person. So I kept it personal in orientation to begin with. Then our friends at Equinox suggested that each volume should have a new chapter. And I thought that was a very exciting idea. And then I pondered, together with Kazuhiro Teruya, as the chief editor, what should the new chapter be about? And I thought it would be appropriate to focus on an area of systemic functional linguistics that has perhaps received relatively less attention. You can scratch out the perhaps that has received less attention. Phonology. And there are various reasons for this. I'll come back to this. One is, of course, that in the great Firthian linguistic theory, specifically prosodic analysis, great steps, significant steps had already been taken in the development of a theory of phonology. So when Halliday began to develop what was to become systemic functional linguistics, starting in the 50s, he knew that he had to focus on other levels of strata within language, lexicogrammar being an important priority. So that's the last chapter, chapter 6. And again, I've used the metaphor of architecture since it resonates with the discourse in the rest of the book. The architecture of phonology according to systemic functional theory. That's the last chapter. I found it exciting to write. I drew on my own experience in describing the phonology of Akan, a Kwa language in the Niger-Congo family that I started working on many years ago in the mid-80s and have recently returned to, together with my friend and colleague Isaac Winlaro at the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. That's a table of contents, and I say a little bit about different aspects of the book, but thank you for entertaining the possibility of reading it. Let's have a nice journey together.